Hello and welcome. My name is Russ Porteous, and this is our season finale for our review of The Block. Please welcome my colleagues Peter Karaglanis and Francis Cosway as we all just delve into what happened this evening on the auctions. Give me a one-word summary, Francis. What's your one-word summary of what we've experienced tonight?
One word.
One word.
Amazing.
Amazing, Pete.
Stupendous.
Stupendous. I would say roller coaster.
That's actually a good word, but that's officially two words, not one.
No, they're hyphenated, mate. Well, where do we start? Do we start with the highs or do we start with the lows?
Can I start with one thing?
Yeah, go.
Can I start with one thing? I am just so incredibly in awe of how Leah dealt with herself and how professional she was when the house passed in.
Mm-hmm.
I thought she handled they were both good, but she in particular, who throughout the entire season has had hissy fits and things like that.
Yeah.
She was so professional. She was so I was so impressed with how she handled herself throughout that whole part. Really impressive.
Yeah. Interesting.
So
interesting.
That was not what I expected. I expected more of what was happening in House 3. But she was just so professional. And I thought, that is a really good example of how to conduct yourself when things don't quite turn out how you'd like them to.
Yeah,
that was
interesting.
Really impressive for me.
I feel that she had witnessed what happened with House 1 and House 3. So she actually saw the bona fides of a well-planned campaign. So, under auction condition, the campaign isn't just about getting over reserve. It's about what do you do next when you're under reserve. And, we've prepared properties. In fact, I was at an auction that passed in, and it was a huge home. And yet the auctioneers and the agents worked to get a result in 3 hours. It actually surpassed the top end of what they were doing. And it was interesting. The bidders were just eyeing each other off and no one was wanting to make the first move. And so that's what you're paying a good auctioneer and a good, real estate team to do is have all the plans in place. And they're well experienced and you could tell that. And they were very professional. So I just think that she had witnessed what had happened when you've got a team that wants to entertain and not get down to business. Had that happened to them first, who knows what would have happened next.
Yeah, maybe that's, she certainly could learn from the others, but I still think that the way she reacted to things was just incredibly professional. I thought she did. It was just not what I was expecting from her after what we saw throughout the entire season. So
I think
hats off to her, in my view. Hats off to my and look, I think that house will sell. That's how you do it. Pass it in and let them fight it out afterwards. So I definitely think it'll sell. Oh, you're on mute. You're on mute.
I was working in the background updating some stuff. If you're watching the show this evening and you've got a comment on any element, whether it was the drama before the auctions even started, or the order in which the auctions occurred, or the reserves, please let us know in the comments below, and we'll highlight those on the show, and we'll talk about them as they come up. So let's start with the pre-show stuff. I thought the touch for the Elvis show was pretty good. And it was just a good segue. Francis, you texted me and said, get on with it.
Yeah, look, it was a bit like this. Look how late it's gone. So we're there to watch the auctions. But anyway, it's all part of the show. So, Elvis a good show. So, anyway, get on with it.
And there was a bit of furor, Pete, about the auction order.
Yeah. Look, it really is a vexed issue. I mean, who goes first? They're taking the plunge. I always thought 4 should go first. Always.
Yeah.
The order that it turned out was in my mind some weeks ago. I thought this is how it should go. And it's a tough gig because, had the smaller one, the ones with the less reserve go first, it could have set the tone for everything else. But with 4 going first, it set high expectation and there was momentum, and that momentum tripped on house 3. And so I actually think it turned out the way it should be. Interestingly, on Domain, house 1, which was the white home, had the most views. It was like 3-1, which actually surprised me when they mentioned that last week. I would have never, ever picked it being that way around, but, who might I know what people are really
Well, they
interested
actually were saying, commentary outside of here was saying during the week that, they're advertised by house number. So you go to house 1 first. It sort of makes sense in a way that they would get the most amount of hits just because they were listed in order. So if you're looking at them in order, you go to house 1 first and then you might drop off. So who knows whether that was the reality of it, but that's what I was reading, was that's how it was set up. So that might explain that.
Yeah, in chronological sequence. Look, actually, house 1, I thought house 1 photoed really well. Really, really well. And that white facade, as I said to you when we were actually on site a few weeks ago, I would never in a million years thought to do white. And I remember seeing the photos, but as I was standing there looking at it, I don't know, it grew on me. So I think maybe as people were revisiting, maybe that same feeling was happening to them as well, that it was growing on them and there was things that they liked about it.
Look, I think it was better than house 3, so I'm not surprised with the results. Interestingly, house 3 were talking about how much street appeal it's got, and I was struggling to understand how black paling fence was street appeal. Excuse my sarcasm there, but I thought the street appeal was lost behind that black paling fence. So house 3 was definitely not my favourite, and that certainly was evident.
I think
the results were there in it too.
Yeah, look, I think in Christie's own words.
Christy, yeah.
Kirsty. She said, when you're here, it's like no one else is around. You're hidden away from everyone. And what she saw, I would say that's fantastic for a backyard. I don't feel that for a front yard. And so that place was quite vexed in what was front became back. And you weren't quite sure where to look in that home. So, I think the black facade was so foreboding, especially that fence. It doesn't feel connected to the community, and I suspect that had a dire effect on the property.
But she was also talking about how it was cozy and it was calm. It had a full-on white kitchen, in-your-face white kitchen, and then that strong black fence, which was everywhere internally and externally. I didn't feel it was as calm and as welcoming as what she thought. And it's clear that is, that's in what the market has told them today as well.
Well, I think if you're a Collingwood fan, that it's good. For everyone else, white and black doesn't exactly bring happiness. So let's go in order of the auction. So, we consider house 4. We're on that bandwagon from virtually week 1. I loved them so much, Steph and Gian. As a couple, we got to see her strengths, but we also got to see her vulnerabilities as well. It would come out and then she would try and pull it back as she was trying to get, regain control of her emotions. And during the auction, we could actually see that happening tonight. So her and Gian did butt heads a few times. Interestingly enough, they actually didn't talk so much about a lot of other people. I think they were in their own world. They had a plan that they wanted to do. Every week, every day of every week, there were things that they want to achieve. So I think they spent their energy focused on making their property the best it could be. What are your thoughts?
I thought they were very focused, and I think that's how, you know, to your point, they weren't really involved with what was going on in the other houses, and I think that's because she was, this is what we're going to do, and we're just going to get head down, bum up, and just do what we're going to do. So they did have the calming house. So, I mean, we all predicted last week that they would win. I don't know what you guys thought, but I never thought they were going to win $1.65 million. I also equally didn't think that someone was going to spend $5 million on that house in that area. I was absolutely blown away with a $5 million. I would say that that's a record in Hampton East by far. That's
So-
Hampton prices.
Yeah.
In Hampton East. That's Brighton prices actually for that size block and that house in Hampton East. It's
Okay, so it's really interesting.
I don't know if that's value for money, but good on them for getting 1.65 million. It was
So if we consider the sales
auction.
campaign, which is the thing that always interested me from the get-go in terms of color palette, how it was set out, what I was thinking, what I was feeling, every week it was like, okay, if I'm bringing people through, what are they thinking and feeling? It's almost like a peacock showing its feathers to attract, the greatest mate. And so, interestingly, Tom Panos said about 3-4 weeks ago, the only reason he accepted it, in his opinion, it was the best set out property of all of them. There's 2 street accesses to the property. It's not the biggest house, but the biggest block, which was really interesting. He found the design very, very appealing. And one of the key things, especially on a campaign like this, Tom does focus groups. They invite people. Let me tell you what you guys won't see here. There's a whole other campaign that's been running for quite a time. And so what they're doing is engaging interest. So the key thing with buying a property like this, the 5 million blew me away, but it actually doesn't surprise me. Looking in that area, as we walked up and down that street, Frances, we noticed there's an evolution starting to happen. It's not just Hampton East. It's starting to change. There's more money coming in to that area, which was quite different to when it was called Moorabbin. I said, I think it might have been in the first or second week, I think that these properties will actually show the locals what can happen without destroying the neighbourhood, rather than just building mindless boxes.
Look, I certainly think that it's set the bar now for what's achievable in that area. But I mean, I've lived in this area for a long time, and I've seen the evolution of it myself. And I used to live in that area, not far from Charming Street. It's still a lot of money for what was offered, but by far it was the best house, and it was presented in the best way. It had the best feeling. And she spoke about that. Steph spoke about the feeling of the home. You couldn't get away from the feeling. And that's why people put their money there. Have they got a good investment? You know, I'm not convinced. I wouldn't be spending 5 million there. I'd put 5 million somewhere else. But they got it because she had such an amazing feeling in that home. And so, it is what sells houses, the great layout and everything else, but the feeling that you got when you walked in was absolutely beautiful.
Look, when we walked through, we both felt, we both articulated it actually is better to see it in person than even the photos actually don't do it justice. And
they're still pretty good though. The calming color palette comes through in the photos. But the way it actually feels when you're in there is,
and you can't get away from the tree. They've done
an extraordinary job. They are set up now, big time.
I would love to see what happens in her career and follow it in the years to come. Interestingly enough, we could see where she displays her anxiety very quickly. Gian has that very calming effect on her. So he didn't pretend to be the designer. She's got, like anyone, an artist, there's a certain temperament that goes with that. But he just calmed her down. And we found, because we both met Gian when we were on site, and he's just a pretty chill dude. He's just like, here we are. He was chatting to everyone, and he was at ease. And so,
but that's how their teamwork works so well. When she got flustered, he was able to calm her down. He was the voice of reason, and that's why their teamwork was so good. It's probably why they've been together for such a long time. He understands her. So
Yeah,
yeah.
and I think we could do the whole night just on this.
Mm.
But my take on this is that we heard, I think it might have been Frank Valentic say there's a depreciation schedule of $4.2 million. Think about that.
Mm.
$4.2 million. And this is why it got that. For what's his name, who bought it? Adrian. He bought it. Well, he had his LMCT top on. This is all marketing, part of a campaign. He's nobody's fool. He will use this for all it's worth. There'll be a depreciation schedule.
He'll rent it out. It's an investment property.
Yeah. Do what
He's
he
not
does.
moving in there.
No. It's just another place for him.
My daughters could not believe how much money that guy was spending. They went, "Where's this guy getting all this money from? He's just spent $12 million on properties." They were blown away.
So look, we could chat. Be right.
Yeah, let's
agent
go to the next house.
Said, but be right.
Oh,
agent
sorry.
said,
The B agent.
Yeah, let me just show you. Is he popped up?
Congratulations, Steph and Gian. Absolutely.
So
yeah, I think everyone's cheering for them today.
Yeah, very much so. I think they are really deserved winners. Extremely happy for them. Easily the best property. And I have to say that I really, theirs was a property I enjoyed being in. And I want it to stay. I wanted them to give it to me. What do you think, mate?
Yeah, I really enjoyed that part of the auction. It was very exciting. And it was interesting to see. I'm just going to pop up the stats because I want to see them. There we go. The reserve at 3.35. What did you think of that?
High.
Yeah,
I definitely thought it was high.
I will say this: they would have known when I saw 3.35. My first thoughts were, okay, they know this is going to blow past it. There's no way they would set it just to make reserve, because that doesn't make for very good television. So that they don't do that in isolation. There's a lot going on in the background. And so, yeah, it was a high figure. But when I saw it, I thought, oh, actually, this will be interesting. Something's up. So, that was proved true. So let's have a look at House 5, our favourite for a couple for a different reason, Eliza and Liberty. Honestly, I could watch those two girls interact all night long. They are just entertainment.
I loved that right at the start they go, still looking for husbands.
Yeah, I know.
Well, now that they've got $500 million each, maybe they'll find their husband.
Yeah, that was just fun. Just fun. So
probably not the husband they want if they're just after the money, but they were so grateful though. Like that is, it's going to set them up. I think they made that very clear that was going to set them up. They were just so grateful. It was beautiful to watch them get that. It really was, because they came in as the underdogs, really. Zero experience. Hand on heart going, we've got no idea what we're doing. And then to walk away with $500 million each, that's awesome. And they'll be able to.
I love to focus on the production value here. And I think they were a really good choice as candidates for the show. Great choice. Yeah. And I think they were blessed to have got a piece of land that was good, well proportioned, with the north-facing aspect at the back. Thought that was pretty good.
So notice how the two north-facing properties had reserves over 3 and all the others are under 2.
Yeah, it's actually Kate Bakos. She actually had and you've heard me refer to Kate Bakos several times. Kate. So she came out with an article, might have been 1 or 2 weeks ago, talking about this, and she was talking about houses in the same street, and there can be more than $100K difference between front and back. Just because one's got north-facing frontage, that's a lot of money just to have the sun come in through the window. But it's true. It really does make a difference. And so I think those girls knew what they wanted to do, even if they didn't know how to do it.
Yeah, I think that they knew they had one of the biggest houses and they had a big block. And I think that was their appeal. They also knew it was north facing. They did mention that.
Yep.
But I'm just so happy that they got that. And look, it really started the auctions on such an incredible high to have them both, two contestants getting over $1 million. It was a great way to start the auctions.
Let's talk about the auctions now. And Christy and Brett.
Number 3.
That's where, for me, the auctioneer, he went to custard. That was just monumental. Nobody would buy from him, I reckon. He's going to have a bad week.
Actually, and that's a big brand, particularly in this area. It's a big brand, Bell. He has certainly not done them any favours at all. Even my girls
trying to be smart, trying to be funny.
Yeah,
what did your daughters say?
Well, they were just like, gee, that's not a good advertisement for Bell. Who'd ever go to them now that this has happened? So, yeah, not great at all. She didn't deal with it very well, though.
Francis.
Go on.
I'd love to hear from the people watching what they thought about this segment, because this, for me, was probably one of the more interesting elements, because how big a difference that the agent can play. So if you've got a comment, throw it in the comments below. We'd love to chat about it.
Well, it's actually not even the agent. So the agent's part of it, but the auctioneer has, they own the show. And the fact that they had you always have the conversation before, but he went rogue. He didn't follow their instructions. I was going to play it by ear. Yeah, that went really well for them. She was furious. But the strength of the auctioneer, and I know I used to go, especially around here, I'd go to all the auctions because I wanted to see all the auctioneers in action, to see how they actually operated, not just go by what their results were, but how do they work the crowd. And he was so underwhelming anyway as an auctioneer. So I haven't actually seen him around here before, so I'm not sure whether he's been pulled from another area, but I haven't seen him at local auctions here for Bell.
So he did the Gatwick, what was that, about 4 or 5 seasons ago? He was one of the auctioneers.
So he's not local then. Okay.
No,
that explains
it. Even one of the key things with auctioneers, his biggest mistake was he wanted to make a personal impression. And so entertain, be funny. And opening up with Tom Panos, probably one of Australia's best known and respected auctioneers, every time he auctions, it doesn't matter, every week he'll do 6 or 7 auctions on a Saturday. He can do like a 1-bedroom apartment and he'll do, a $10 million plus home. He's about his business. He researches, he knows what he's looking for. He's always a consummate professional. And one of the other key things is this, that he can be funny during an auction, but it's part of what he's doing. He's not seeking to entertain. Guy Porteous says, and this is so true, the auctioneer was disappointing. There should have been a consequence for his action. There will.
Well, the consequence for his actions is he's not going to get a lot of work for a long time.
Yeah, he's in
trouble. The repercussions on their business will be huge.
Yeah, and I've had properties we've done, and there's one actually auctioneer in Melbourne's East, and he did 2 of my properties 2 weeks in a row. The guy was hilarious, but he was hilarious because that's who he was. He entertained people and got them laughing while he was getting them to spend money. I've never seen anyone like it. And we did auction. We did number 5 Samuel Street in Croydon. And that auction went for 17 minutes. I don't even know how he stayed on top of it all, but there was 5 full-on bidders. But as an auctioneer, he was a consummate professional. As he was getting people to move back and forward, he wasn't degrading. He actually brought people into it. And, that's the thing, is that he understands that his role is to help people spend money and get the most he can for the vendors. And that was lost on number 3, in my opinion.
Yeah, that wasn't his goal.
Clearly, Christy and Brett were upset, and rightly so. It was like being hit with a cold spoon.
Yep. So Be Right Agent said, I felt a bit sorry for Christy and Brett when it comes to how their auction was handled. you'd have thought that Bell would have spoken to the main bidders prior to the auction taking place, but it didn't seem that way. He also did very little to console, explain his process to Christy and Brett in the other room. I think he was backpedaling. I honestly think he knew he was, I'd stuffed up. And so, I felt sorry for them. My son didn't. He texted me. He said, the roosters have come home to roost.
Well, interesting you say that, because my 13-year-old said, but this is payback because look how nasty she was throughout the whole season. She said,
well, she did say this is what Australia wanted.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And that was, but look, she didn't handle it very well. She was very, very upset. Oh, that's not even, well, it was quite a,
wasn't even half of what we would earn
half
if
of what we
stayed at
would
home.
normally earn. So it was quite an arrogant comment, I thought. But anyway, it's disappointing for them. But on the flip side, there have been some people on the block who have come home with nothing. They've gone home with zero in previous seasons. So she's, she's still got 65 grand. And as someone said to her, it's tax-free. So she's not going home with nothing. She's going home with something. It's just not what she had in mind. And of course, the other two went home with so much. So is it karma? That's what my daughter said. It's karma. Look what she was
That'd
like
be interesting if you're watching. Let us know if you think it was karma. Maybe Christy and Brett got bitten on the bum.
Well, I'll tell you what, she didn't look very karma to me. She looked really upset.
She was.
Yeah.
But also, I don't think their house was actually that incredible. I said it before. No. It didn't have the street appeal. We don't need to go through all of that again, but I don't think their house was as good as the other two that did get the $1 million. Yep. So maybe it was a combination of all those things. Remember, it had that small dining area. There was elements of it that didn't have a good floor plan, or that weren't well laid out, and the bad coupled with the bad auctioneer and things like that. So maybe it's just bad karma, all those things coming together that have given them the result that they got.
Now,
but she didn't go home with nothing.
Here's a really interesting thing. Danny has been a consistent buyer for many years. He didn't pick up any properties tonight. He didn't even try lowballing that property. It was just insipid. And you'd think he's a smart businessman. And so for him, that house, the numbers didn't stack up, even with appreciation. That was really telling. And so you can't get away. So there's the entertainment, but you can't get away from the numbers.
Yeah.
So,
and I think that's probably the same with house 2.
Number 1.
Should we go to house 1?
House 1.
So I think Russ and I, you and I were talking about that they're going to be the dark horse. You know what I really loved is they didn't get the $1 million, but she was so grateful for the 130.
Gracious. Yeah.
And she just went, because, Scotty was saying, how much do you want or how much is good for you? And she said, I'm happy now. And I thought, oh, bless you. You just, really gracious. They just were really happy. They didn't have to have the $1 million. I'm sure they would have been happy with that. Who wouldn't be? But she was so gracious. I'm happy they got that. I really thought that their house was a better house than house 3. So.
Yeah, for sure.
I liked how Scotty wrapped it up at the end for them. Said you held yourselves really well all the way through the season. You worked hard. You delivered a great property. Congratulations, well done. And I think,
and further to that, they didn't win once.
Yeah.
No.
Not once. So I'm really glad that they got something to say, hey, we're now winners now.
I think also is that after their disappointment, it was evident each week, they reset themselves for Monday. And so Monday was like, okay, we can't do anything about that. Mentally, they were strong enough to go, this is what we're going to do. And they chose to work and not give in, which was a contrast with the Indian couple last year who their efforts stopped when it wasn't going their way. And so, what we see here is the contrast between character. And so they have good character. and that shone through. So look, I would have loved them if we get more than 130. I think there's a lot of emotion there, but they were gracious, and I was pretty pleased. Be Right Agent says, hang on, let me bring this one up. Okay, think about brand too.
Yes.
Adrian Patelli, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, okay. So I'll read that whole thing out.
That's a great point.
Yeah. So Adrian Patelli may not have wanted to associate with Christy and Brett's brand. Now, this was really interesting. So about week, I think it was around 6 or 7 when that schism started to happen between Brett and Christy and Leah and Ash. Leah and Ash were spoken to, and they said, if you don't do something about this, you will not have a TV career past this point. And Christy brought that up later on. So she obviously heard about that along the way. She goes, well, I was never here for that. So she actually dug in deeper to that in her. And that was where we started to see, I've just gone blank on their names again, Leah and Ash start to split. So they harmed themselves. And I think that you're so right, Be Right, saying that, Adrian Patelli didn't want to associate with that brand because it's a tainted home, funnily enough, for marketing purposes anyway.
Yeah, I think the proof's in the pudding on that one.
Yeah, very much so. So
House 2. So can I just say that my prediction was right? I think someone, was it Russ, you? Or did we all say it? We all said House 4 would win, and I said House 2 wouldn't sell.
Yeah.
I think it will sell,
but
it didn't sell at auction. I do think it'll sell, but it didn't sell at auction.
I never saw Dave Hughes with a paddle.
No.
Because they flagged him saying, he's in the room, but I never saw him with a paddle. So I think he was just there as an interested speculator.
He actually just recently sold one of the block houses that he bought some years ago. And he made some money on it, which was good. And so he actually was, I don't know whether it was to pump up the ratings for 9, but he was never really front and center. I just think he was feeling it out.
Yeah, that's not really a family home. I think he's got young children, especially with that step. Hey, Peter.
Oh, that stupid step.
But I said it's polarizing, and you're either going to have to love that look, or you walk, or it's not going to be your house. But actually, as they were going through it, I was thinking about it again. And I thought, so you can take all the furniture out, you can take all that artwork out, and all the decorating that I don't particularly like that they've done. However, you can't fix the small kitchen. You can't fix some of the other things that are more difficult. So some of the bathrooms that were so masculine with that super dark grey Venetian plaster, that stuff's expensive, high-ticket items to fix. So it's not just about the decorating that made it polarizing. Their hard finishes and the floor plan was not good.
And going through
wonder
the
whether
bathroom
that
to go to the laundry.
Buys off. But that's what I mean. The floor plan was not good, but their hard finishes were expensive things to fix. It's not just like taking the furniture out. And I was really thinking about that again throughout that auction process when it was very quiet. How much would you have to spend to actually get this to be something that was half decent? Who wants to step in the middle of their living room? So it's not an easy fix.
So I was having a chat with, I said to Tanya, I go, if we bought that place, I would literally repaint the whole thing, only because I know my painters do a much better job. But not only that too, Tanya goes, I cannot stand that walk-in wardrobe. She goes, the color of it. She goes, she said it felt claustrophobic.
But that's an easy fix. So that's just wallpaper. That can just peel off. I'm talking more around.
No, I think it was
kitchen,
I think it was also the color of the cupboards was as well. Yes. She said that actually closed her in.
It was awful. The fact that the laundry was through that powder room, and I mean that was bad on TV, but it was even worse in real life. So
and the ceiling.
We didn't talk about that last week.
No, that's one of the reasons why I think this house didn't sell, and that's why I said that last week. it's too polarizing. You had to either absolutely love it, so their mass appeal was not there like it was with the other houses.
There was a fair bit of panic to make sure that it didn't sell. It's like, stop.
Yeah, because they will do much better now with the negotiation that'll go on afterwards. They will absolutely do much better, and I think that was their focus, and maybe that's why Leah was
elated.
Exactly. She was elated that they could pass it in when they did, and he followed their instruction, and she was so grateful. See, that was Buxton. They're local because I know Noel from around here, but the auctioneer was not the local auctioneer around here.
Oh, so the guy doing it tonight wasn't the local?
He's not the Buxton auctioneer that normally goes out, who's the owner of Buxton in Hampton East, and they're the number one agent in this area. So it's interesting that he wasn't there because he's actually really good. But that guy was pretty good.
He listened, and he was,
did.
And I think that's the key thing. And straight away he said, "Okay, we deal with this all the time. This is what we're going to do next." So actually, they had a really good strategy in place, and I think that was really telling. So I guess. We've covered all the things. One of the key things that if we could tie it all together is it is a competition to sell a home. There are inherent things that the contestants couldn't change. That was the hard plans of the home.
Yeah.
We're going to do this, we're going to do that. And so none of them could change that. But here's the thing that if we consider the color palettes that are, that were shown, how rooms were set out, the things that I think appeal to us all as we walk through would appeal to everyone. And the things that turned us off, that marketplace would be very, very small, like those tiled steps in number 2. That would appeal to a very small audience.
Yeah.
And so as I was viewing it, it just reiterates that when you're selling, it is so important to understand your market. And there's markets within markets. So of all that's here, Frances, Charming Street and the surrounds better than anyone. And within that area, I'm sure there's certain expectations of things that people want. What do you feel that area elicits for anyone wanting to move there?
I'd say it's more. It is more of a classic home, as in it's not Fitzroy. So I suppose let me do the polar opposite of what they're looking for there. It's going to be a home that is timeless in its aesthetic, that is neutral color tones, those sorts of things, good sized kitchens. And I think I mentioned it really early on. They're going to be people that are professionals, couples that are moving from places like Elwood. They want more land. They want a family home because they've either got a small family or they're thinking about having a family. So they want something that's going to last, but I want it to be neutral and timeless. And I think that's why Steph and Gian appealed so much as well, because they were that neutral color palette. And a lot of the others were not as timeless in their design as they were. So it was, colors that were very on trend, textures and materials that were very on trend. And that might be great for the next few years, but I think people are very conscious about what's going to date. So, they don't want.
So you would say, Frances, that that house number 4, the styling and the colours and the way that it was built was very much in the genre of a forever home.
No, it's in the genre of someone. No, it's because a forever home is all about the person that's moving there. It's all about the personality of the person. So they can't build a forever home because they don't know who the person is that's buying it. But in terms of creating something that's going to appeal to a really broad audience, people are generally after. I don't want it to date. I want it to be neutral colours because I don't want to get sick of it. So if you're going to appeal to that audience, which is what around here is looking for, and they're spending that sort of money and it's a turnkey solution, they don't want to have to replace these things in a couple of years because it's outdated. And a lot of the things that were in a lot of the houses were very on trend, very now. They weren't materials or colours that are going to stand the test of time.
Timeless, yeah.
Yeah, so that's why I think Steph and Gian's appealed so much, because they had such a neutral colour palette, and really the main colour that they
north-facing
used.
aspect, yeah.
Correct. And the main colour that they used throughout was green, which is very, very calming. And it also taps into biophilic design, which is becoming really big now. Not that that's going to be a reason that they're going to buy it, but that is all about bringing the outside in. It's all about connecting with nature, and that is becoming a really big thing. Big in Fitzroy right now. It'll be coming here soon.
So
I talk to clients about it a lot.
It's interesting that you say that. So we did La Pente Avenue 2021. So yeah, in 2021. And so the colour aesthetics used inside and out were very much coastal, would have suited down Beaumaris way. So outside, inside, it was all the wrong colours for where it actually was. So there was one massive room you walked into that would have probably been about 60 or 70 square metres, and it was long. And they'd had a very Tuscan sort of colour feature wall. And as I'm looking at this going, what can I do with it? It's just so ugly. I noticed they had really big glass. They were next to La Pente Park, which is a beautiful park. So what I did was I went and grabbed a couple of leaves from outside, took it down to Dulux and colour matched them. And so we nicknamed it La Pente Green. And so when you actually look down in the room with massive glass each side, you could see the trees and it flowed outside. And I remember the agent at the time so what did you call it? Biophilic? Was that the word that you used?
Biophilic, yeah.
I've never heard it before. You're going to have to text me how you spell that one, because that's going to be my new buzzword. Everyone thinks I'll know everything. I go, speak to Francis. But that made sense to me. And the colours we chose for the facade also reflected the natural beauty. And I think if I was to encapsulate what really nailed it for Steph and Gian was this: they took advantage of what nature provided, namely the tree at the front, the tree at the back. And apparently that tree at the front you can't cut down because there's two special type of owl that actually live in it.
Okay. There is the barn owls that are around.
Yeah, there was
the tawny owls. Tawny owls. Tawny owls are around here.
Yeah,
tawny
great owls. Yeah, we have.
So what they did was she understood that appeal, and so that was the thing. Looking outside, I go, it's awesome. So here's the thing: a decision on buying a home is made within the first 7 to 10 seconds of seeing it out the front. And she absolutely nailed that brief massively.
Yeah. Look, you know what I really hope comes out of this is that those houses are sit in the municipality of Bayside. And I've lived here for nearly 15 years, and Bayside do a lot of talking about saving trees, and they let developers knock down a truckload of very established trees that have got a diameter of greater than 50 centimetres, which apparently are not meant to be knocked down. And I see it all the time. There's big outroar by the locals. This really shows how having an established tree on a property, one, you can build around it, but two, how it adds so much to the aesthetic of the place, of the actual home, and how much, talk about street appeal, it actually adds to that as well. And it's really interesting as well. When we bought our place in Hampton, there was no established tree, and that actually really disappointed me, but we didn't have a choice. But my kids are always, I wish we had a big tree in our garden. We've planted a lot of big trees, but now they're too old to be swinging from branches and things. That's all they wanted, was a big tree to be able to climb or swing in. And I really hope that this shows people that when you renovate or you're building, retaining the trees adds so much to the way it feels and the way it looks. And if there's one thing that comes out of it and it's that, I really hope so.
Be Right Agent Francis has said, do you blame the contestants or the major sponsors for pushing their own, quotes, on trend now products?
That's a really good question, Be Right. Now, I wasn't quite sure. I was fairly adamant that a lot of the products were all from sponsors. But once we actually went into the homes, it's very evident that they had to use certain products. Like every single house has got wallpaper, and it's not just in one room, it's used extensively. So that's sponsor. All the kitchens and the wardrobes and all the cabinetry are all one sponsor. All the bench tops are all one sponsor. All of the vanities, all one sponsor. But actually, when we went into the homes, you could actually see that all the furniture, a lot of it, not all of it, because Christian Cole was involved, but there was a lot of furniture that was all one sponsor, because a lot of it was the same in each house. So I think be right that it's not the contestants necessarily. It's really because they have to use the major sponsors' products. And even within that, having spoken to one of the major sponsors, once one of the contestants has chosen that product, it's then taken away from the other contestants. So it gives them even less to choose from. So it's definitely the sponsors. Again, it's the block shop and the sponsors getting the value for money, that they're getting the return, the ROI that they are wanting to get out of sponsoring the block. So the contestants have no choice. They must use those products.
Well, they can actually go out of it, but that's block money, so they actually don't have to spend out of their budget. They can choose outside of it, but it does cost money.
A lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, I don't know. With that, I actually don't particularly. I don't mind it. I think it helps insofar as they've all got access to. I mean, they're all quality products. I've seen some really bad quality products, and those ones are all awesome.
And that's not what I'm saying. Absolutely,
yeah,
I'm definitely not saying that they're bad quality products. They've just got a limited range, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing either. It's just that they're, whether that makes them on trend or not, I don't really know if that's. The contestants are still choosing the color palette.
Yeah, that's right.
So I'm not really convinced that using stuff from the major sponsors means that they have to create a house that's really on trend rather than timeless. And it's proof that it is possible to do something that's more timeless, because Stefan Gian did it.
So I think one of the practices that I like is nice neutral tones, and yet create contrast with what we bring in, whether it's a picture, it's a bit of furniture that's a different color. That makes it stand out.
Decorating.
So it's not fixed. And so, those that, I thought the girls did in areas, they did that okay as well, except for that big fireplace in the middle of the lounge room. I didn't like that. And so I would have to say that of all the blocks that I've watched, and I've watched a lot, the lessons in this particular block are going to be far greater. And I think if people take time, future contestants go back and actually watch this whole series again, if they have a look at the work ethic, the work attitude of Stefan Gian and the sisters, House One, those three all went about their business doing what they needed to do. House One, they didn't win anything, but they were consistent week in, week out. And they were workmanlike. And I think you can expend too much energy on things that actually don't count.
I think the lesson that people can learn is spend up big at the start, win the first reveal, and then use the money from that reveal to do the next one, and just keep working your ass off. That's the way I would do it. So yeah,
sounds like a good strategy, Russ. Yeah, we've been going a while.
We've been going for 50 minutes. Is there anything that you guys want to share about the show this evening to wrap it up? Other than the fact that we now it's out there that the next season will be at Phillip Island, which we all knew.
It's around the corner from my dad's house.
I thought Scott Cam did a great job hosting. Shelley did a good job in the other room, just bringing everybody together. I thought it was pretty well produced. I loved early on all of the setup with the cameraman, bringing stuff in. They handled the medical emergency quite well. Let's go to a break. And so that was all really interesting. I thought the whole thing was like this season, other than the drama element, I thought this season was very well produced.
The
Peter?
production values were awesome. If we took Stephen Gian out of it, I think and even the girls would have been a very different show. The fact that the girls were there and Stephen Gian, and I did like House One. Not only there was this contrast between ditzy, funny, hilarious, but workmanlike.
Husband seekers.
And they were just honestly, I can't ever think of contestants who are brought in that have absolutely entertained the way those two girls have. I can't see why they're not going to get other spots on Nine and on radio and all sorts of other things. Stephen Gian just set the standard for professionalism under pressure. And I think that was awesome. I think if you're going to be a contestant and if you have a little bit extra in your personality, just take a look at Christy and Brett. They did themselves no favors. It was dumb. And I don't know if they're like that in life, but geez, it didn't show well.
Yeah. Well, hey, I just want to thank you both for your insights as construction and home professionals. You guys did an amazing job. The conversation every week that we've had about the room reveals and what we've learned, I've learned so much, and I'm sure that people watching have. I know, Francis, this has been something that your clients have discussed, and there's the data was quite interesting to see, what happened. Pete, any final comments from you?
This has just been the greatest privilege. Just to come here. I don't know what I'm going to do next Sunday night. Let's just think of something else. Yep.
No, we're not doing Love Island, mate. We are not doing Love Island.
Mate, not even close. Or your dad and my mum or whatever.
I'm going to bail out of Love Island. Thanks, guys.
We could review
I think
60
professionally,
minutes.
I've enjoyed everything. I'm actually sad that it's coming to an end. I have a new really good friend that I really respect in Francis Cosway. I enjoyed our time together. Interestingly enough, when we did the little thing over at the Block Houses the other week, when we created the video and did that, I had a lot of feedback from that. I'd actually been asked, have you guys done a lot of this stuff before? And I said, this is our second time meeting. And so there was just a really good energy.
Was this the meeting that you didn't invite me to, Pete? Is that the one?
Yeah, that one.
yeah. Sorry, I forgot. I couldn't remember which meeting it was. But anyway, you may continue.
Yeah, I'll do that. But I think what it is I've enjoyed the contrast between our styles. We're all trying to do the same thing, but just a different way, which means in property and in real estate that there's many, many ways to get great results. You just have to know what it is that you're doing in the market you're appealing to.
Yeah.
Pete, you and I spent some time together a few weeks ago just talking about your business, and I got to learn a little bit more about what you do at Presenting Homes Australia. And I'm really excited for your future and the things you're working on. This is the first time I'll say this, but Francis is actually working with my family to do our forever home. And I'm super excited about the things that we're about to embark on. I literally have a meeting with our builder tomorrow just to start the process.
How exciting.
So that's exciting. Yeah. But then I'm going away. I'm going away for a long time. So we probably won't actually start work until the new year. But Francis, I've been really delighted with working with you on this show, but also professionally, you really know your stuff. So if people are looking for an interior designer with panache and skill and knowledge and fancy words that I've never heard before, then certainly you could chat with Francis at White Pebble Interiors. Francis, have you got any final words?
Look, I also just wanted to thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to do this. It's been awesome to reacquaint myself with the block, to be able to really look at it in a different way than what I did many years ago when I was watching it then. So, and it's been equally, Peter, it's been a delight to meet you and to talk about things with different views, and to also go to the block together was fantastic. So the three of us on the show has just been a lot of fun. And I really do thank you, Russ, for inviting me to join you on the show. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, this was all done on a whim at short notice. Then in the background is Tim, who's our technical producer. Every now and again, he'll be swapping screens and moving things around. And when I think he's not there, I'll do it, and then he'll flick it all back. So there we go. We just saw Tim's handiwork in the background. With a big, we can all see him, and he's got a big grin on his face. He'll be hiding behind. He can show himself if he wants to. But I want to thank you both for your time and effort and energy. No, he's just quietly sitting in the background. Tim has his own production company for doing online streaming and things like that. So, reach out to me if you would like an introduction to Tim for his business and what he's doing. But in summary, I really enjoyed myself this season. Actually, I didn't realize that it was 12 weeks, and I'm literally standing in one room of my house. Like you guys are sitting, I'm standing. My legs get sore at the end of this. It was really good, and I'm really pleased with the journey that we've been on. And then ultimately, what happened tonight was a real reflection, I think, of what we all believe that Gian and Steph, what they had done consistently throughout this season. So well done to them.
Yeah.
So
thank you, Russ.
Pete, no worries. If people want to reach out to you, that's at Presenting Homes Australia. Francis, if people want to connect with you about their forever homes, you are podcasting and you're all over the place. Di says, thank you all for your time and effort.
Thank you, Di.
And they can connect with you, Francis, at White Pebble Interiors. Thank you for Be Right Agent, who has consistently been there asking us questions, posing ideas and thoughts. We really appreciate that too. Thanks to Tim for our technical production. And to everybody who's watching, let us know what your thoughts are in the comments below. And if you'd like us to do it again next year, I really enjoyed this. Thanks and have a great night.
Thank you. Good night.